What's going on, draft fans? Welcome to Cover One, the NFL Draft Podcast. We are live here on YouTube, as we do every single week. Saturday mornings are normally the typical start time for us, but some things came up yesterday, so we changed it over to today for more of a recap show. And we're on a Sunday morning with our coffee. I'm Russ Brown. With me, as always, Damian Parson. DP, my man, how are we doing?
I am good, man. A lot of fun football yesterday. It's a lot of prospects showed out. A lot of quarterback, kind of jostling for ranking spots and everything else. And then, of course, we got NFL football today. So it's been a good weekend. It's been a good start to the weekend.
Yeah, it has been, man. I'm kind of in a controversy right now. We've got football on today, of course, but my friends wanted me to go golfing, but I got the kid, and he at first was like, I don't know if I want you to go, and now he's like, I think I want you to stay home. He didn't care if I went before. Now he wants me to stay because we got NFL football, and we put it on two screens where we're all jacked up on the couch. We're ready to go. So I don't know. We'll see what happens throughout the day there. But yesterday was a day that had a lot of great football. From Michigan State winning on the road to Auburn and Penn State at night to a USC quarterback controversy that has now begun. Michigan rolling over Northern Illinois, Alabama, and Florida was somewhat of a dogfight. Virginia against North Carolina with Sam Howell. We got lots of things that we're going to get into. Before we do, want everybody to know that today's show, as always, is presented by Underdog Fantasy, the most innovative platform in the fantasy market. New users before were receiving a free $25 when using the promo code COVER1. Now, if you deposit $10, you get a free $10 using the promo code COVER1. So be sure to do that and check out Underdog Fantasy. You can go to underdogfantasy.com. I'm telling you, if you don't have a clue about fantasy football, or you're really second guessing of, do I play Mike Williams or Sammy Watkins this weekend? Go to Underdog Fantasy and take a look at it, because they've got everything that you need to find the best matchups for your fantasy football lineup. So again, that's underdogfantasy.com. So let's jump into this. I mean, Sam Howell was kind of a topic of discussion last week. He's going to be the guy that we start with this week, because he's got everything that you want in a quarterback one, and he plays very well against a Virginia football team that blew out Illinois a week ago, 42-14. And Sam Howell comes in and he plays I think maybe the best football he's played all year. What was your takeaway from Sam Howell and just some of the throws? I mean, that 53, I mean, granted, the receiver made a hell of a catch in the back of the end zone there, that diving catch, but Sam Howell's putting some of these passes right where they need to be, and his receivers are making plays.
No, he played phenomenal, man. 14 of 21, 307 yards passing, 22 yards per catch, pretty much, or per pass. 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And he was sacked 1 time. We saw that against Virginia Tech. They got after him. The O-line was leaky. It was a lot of leaks in it, and the water was just seeping through, right? So they were able to get to him.
Flash flood.
Exactly, flash flood, and he didn't know how to swim, so he was struggling out there. But last week they got his confidence back, and I think what's the old adage? Winning cures all. So with getting that first win last week and performing the way he did last week against inferior competition per se, but it's more of a confidence booster. Like, okay, we're good, we're okay, we know what we do well, we know what we can do, and then coming into this week and looking how the game went, like Virginia's quarterback, Armstrong. 39-54, 554 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. His defense was still, they still had their struggles, but Sam was decisive. He looked comfortable in the pocket, driving throws into the right windows. And then, like you said, that throw, I believe it was to Downs.
Josh Downs.
Yeah, Josh Downs. And, of course, incredible catch. But he showcased his arm talent there. What I love about how that whole thing went down was Ty Chandler, the transfer from, I believe it was Tennessee. So transfer from Tennessee at running back, it's like the first game or so they weren't using him Really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they let him go this game. 20 carries for $198 and 2 touchdowns, and he showed that big playability consistently. That's going to help Sam, because when teams don't fear your run game, they say, oh, that's fine. We're going to rush 3, rush 4, drop 7 or 8, and it was like, hey, now you got to throw it to these really, really tight windows. But when you're running the ball and you're able to dominate the ground, you kind of start forcing those safeties to cheat up, and now you give your quarterback more advantageous throwing lanes. I really like what I saw from him. The mental, I guess, mental moxie, you could say, the mental toughness to come back after showcasing that, and what he showcased against Virginia, which was a bad football, bad decision-making. Like the interception we talked about last week was terrible that he did week 1. But I'm happy to see him bounce back. Crazy part about it is Twitter had nothing to say about the guy, when he was playing well. It's really odd to me.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest. He impressed. I was a bit down on him last week just because he's had a poor start to the season, and everything that we saw the year before just wasn't there. And you're right with Ty Chandler. He took the words right out of my mouth. Him coming out and putting up almost 200 yards rushing, having the 2 touchdowns, having the long run of 60 yards, that helps, your quarterback a lot. Now, and I get it. Armstrong had, almost 500 or over 550 yards passing, but Virginia couldn't run the ball to save their lives. They had 22 carries for 21 yards rushing. So I completely understand, that sometimes the running game is what's best for you. But with Ty Chandler, it's going to definitely help a guy like Sam Howell, because he needs something back there to know that it's not going to always be on him. But it goes to show, though, when there is those moments that he needs to make the throw, that he needs to make that one pass to really get it going, he can do so. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a great rebound for him, and I'm curious. Next week against Georgia Tech, Duke the following weekend, and then Florida State, who's been struggling quite a bit, and then Miami as well. So we'll definitely see what happens with North Carolina and Sam Howell. But going over to Michigan State, this team is legit. I mean, Michigan State has the ingredients to maybe be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. Could be an off year for Ohio State. Michigan, they look good to start, but again, they really haven't played anybody. And really the rest of the conference is really up in the air. But Michigan State, again, they've got an opportunity to really capitalize and be the team that we saw a couple of years ago that took advantage of the Big Ten. And they go on the road. They beat Miami, and I'm going to kind of take this one because it's my team. And Kenneth Walker is a dude, man. I mean, and he is just – he's lighting it up. And another big day at the office for him. And I don't know how a team like Wake Forest underutilized him to that point of not making this guy happy, and he enters the transfer window, or the transfer portal. I just don't understand that. But Kenneth Walker, man, the ability to make defenders miss in those short areas of the field. He's got the big body, he's got the quick feet, he's got the speed, he's got the ability to truck people if he needs to. If the contact balance is there. I just love the skill set of this kid, and he's been a really big bright spot. But I want to say, and just give props to Peyton Thorne, he was throwing some absolute dimes against Miami, especially in that fourth quarter. He really broke the game open. It was 24-17. He throws a deep pass to Naylor, and it ends up getting caught. I mean, he put the ball right where it needed to be. So I want to say maybe it was Mel Tucker or Mark D'Antonio that had said he kind of reminds him of a Kirk Cousins in a sense. So I'm really curious if the development is kind of there. But Michigan State is legit, and there's no doubt about it.
No, you're right, man. I loved everything from their offense yesterday. Defense played well as well, holding Miami at home to 17 points while they're on the road. Like you said, and I really enjoy watching Peyton Thorne. 18 of 31, 261 yards, almost 15 yards per attempt and per completion, 4 touchdowns. He showed that he can move out of the pocket as well, getting out there, running for a couple yards, even the first down. He looked good. and they have explosiveness in the backfield as receiver. The quarterback is like, that's my main thing for quarterbacks. With my analogy is point guards. Just distribute the ball, get it to your playmakers. Don't make the big mistake. Don't play hero ball. And he was doing that. And I really want to continue. I really plan on watching him as the season progresses, because going up against Michigan and we get into the really the tooth and nail of this conference. It's going to be fun to watch his development. So I'm excited to see how he plays. But yeah, man, listen, Michigan State, they're showing, because the one thing about it is typically, and it happens a lot with Big Ten teams. You'll see Big Ten teams like an Iowa or Michigan State. They have a good defense, but the offense doesn't bring anything to the table in previous years. Yeah. Now it's a little bit different for them, where now Michigan State can play good defense, but they have a great ground game. They have explosive weapons on the outside, and they have a quarterback that knows how to give his weapons to football. I'm excited to see how the season ends for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season, I think. I mean, I'm pretty excited about it, and it's fun when your team that you root for every Saturday is actually decent and they can actually make something happen, because it's been rough the last couple of years. But yeah, Peyton Thorne, Kenneth Walker, Jaden Reed is quite the trio for an offense, because you can get those big plays at any given time. And they had a big game yesterday, so it was a legit win. So I mean, Miami, Florida was a top 15 team in the country. I know they got absolutely beaten down by Alabama, and I mean that wasn't even close. They have a close game against Penn State, but I mean I knew Michigan State was going to win. I mean I just knew it from a betting perspective. When I saw plus 6.5, I was like, there's no way they're going to lose this game by a touchdown. Like, there's just no way. So the fact that it was that close, I mean, or that it was they're that much different in the score, just goes to show that I got some confidence. But a game I was not confident about yesterday, because I didn't know who was going to win this one. Auburn and Penn State was the night game. That was the big game, kind of on the docket yesterday. Auburn goes on the road, first time in Happy Valley. And I just want to say, to people saying oh, they're not ready for this atmosphere. Happy Valley's a different thing. Look, I get it. They've had 400,000 people in that stadium, but at the same time, it's Auburn. They play in the SEC. I'm fairly confident they're ready for almost anything. They're Auburn. They play Alabama every single year. They're one of the few teams to do it. They play Florida. They play Georgia. They play all these big time teams. I think they're just fine. But props to Penn State. They come out and they win this thing 28-20. What was one of your big key takeaways in this game?
For me, it was Jahan Dotson. 12 targets, 10 receptions, 78 yards in the touchdown. One of the more craftier route runners in the nation and in this draft. But he showcased it was a over route that Clifford threw to him against zone, and he threw it high. It was helmet or higher situation, and Jahan Dotson just pretty much showed, hey, I'm not just a route runner. I'm not just someone that has speed. I can go up and get the football, and he elevates just arrogant hands, snatches it out of the air, and for a team that kind of struggles to run the ball. I like Noah Cain, but they were struggling to run the ball last night. Having Jahan Dotson, to me, proved to be the difference maker, because at the end of the day, I mean, they won 28-20. Take away his touchdown, I mean, yeah, they still have 21 points, but if he doesn't play in that game, I don't think Clifford even plays as well as he did. Which, he was 28-32 for 280 and 2 touchdowns and interception. But Jahan Dotson, to me, is the difference maker offensively for Penn State. So watching him, Tank Bigsby, listen, he's not draft eligible for 2023, but he's a grown man, and he epitomizes SEC football. Just tough, gritty, hard-nosed, physical. I loved everything I saw from him. So, and Bo Nix was Bo Nix, right? I kind of prepped. I tried to prep people, heading into this game. Yes, we saw him against 2 inferior teams light it up. He looked great decision-making, accuracy, all that. Yeah, no, he should have thrown, I believe it was 2 picks that were dropped last night. He was not, he had maybe a throw or so, a couple throws that were okay, Bo, I like that. But he just wasn't consistent, and that's been his MO since he got to Auburn, which still bothers me to this day that they picked him over Malik Willis.
I still can't believe they did that. And I remember when they did, because Christian Page was on the show at the time, and we were talking about it. And like, he's obviously, we all know, a big Auburn guy, went there the whole nine. He was there at the game yesterday. What an atmosphere. He was texting me and sending me pics of it. He was like, man, this is awesome. And I'm like, man, that's great. But your team is down 28-20 and Bo Nix is struggling per usual. He's always pulling the Bo Nix card. And I don't know, like, if how you go from seeing the talent that is Malik Willis to going to kind of down this family route, because Bo Nix's family has all this stuff. I don't want to say invested, but they've invested so much time into the Auburn program, right? His grandfather played there. Other family members went there. And it's just like I get it. But at the same time, I just don't get it. And like, when you're trying to set up a program and you're trying to win, you go with your best player. And I think single-handedly, if you put Malik Willis and Bo Nix next to each other on a football team, throwing passes, running an offense, it's not even close. Like, it's not even close. And I've seen limited of Malik Willis. I've watched a lot of Auburn football over the last 2.5 years or whatever, but he's been the same guy since the very beginning. And the guy that isn't the same, like, he's up and down, right? Like, it's peaks and valleys with him, is Sean Clifford. And like, very efficient, yes, very efficient. But like, what is he? Like, what is he at the next level? Because I don't think he's going to get drafted necessarily. And it feels like he's been at Penn State for 47 years. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of talent there. Like, he runs, he manages a game very well. And he might not be able to make all the throws, but he's a tough guy, man. He takes shots. He can move around. I don't know, like, if he's going to be like something that we talk about more in April. Am I wrong for thinking that? Like, I think he's more of like probably more of a camp body or anything, but could he be a valuable backup at the next level? Maybe. I mean, I think possibly. So, but at the same time, like, obviously there's nothing that like wows you with him, but for a guy that's just been pretty consistent during his career, I feel like we don't give enough conversation to him. Am I wrong for that?
No. Sean Clifford
yes,
is.
You are. You can tell me I'm wrong. It's fine.
No, you're good. I mean, Sean Clifford is he's again, talk about Bo Nix. He's been inconsistent his entire time starting at Penn State. He has some tools, but like I said, to me he's nothing more right now than a camp body. Somebody that comes in, maybe a late round draft pick, see what you can develop him into a solid to good backup. That if your quarterback goes down, you're comfortable with him starting a game or two rather than him being a franchise guy or a spot starter for more than a few games. I just don't really see it with him from the neck up. Decision making has always been questionable. He's mobile, strong. Like I said, it's just from a mental aspect. Do you trust what you see? Can you make the right reads? Can you make the right decisions? Those are the things that I consistently ask myself with him. And for me, when I'm evaluating quarterbacks, and I consistently have to ask that question, I'm kind of out on you.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like, I get it. I'm not saying like this guy's going in the first round, but
I'm
just so intrigued with the guy when he plays in these big moments, and it feels like when there's he makes a dumb turnover, it seems like once a game. But it just feels like in these big moments for Penn State, sure, the players around him make some great plays. The defense steps up at times, but a lot of the times it feels like they're in some of these games because of him and some of the decision making that he has during those parts of the game. So I don't know. I want to say, though, real quick on the Auburn defensive side, obviously Smoke Monday, great name. He had some great tackles. But one player that stood out was Chandler Wooten, the linebacker, number 31. He's a senior. I'm curious if we'll see him at the Senior Bowl. He's been playing, since 2017 with the team, kind of been up and down, never really been like this flashy guy. But yesterday he flashed a little bit. And while Penn State struggled to run the football, he was the guy in the box that was constantly making some of these tackles and making some of these stops. So I'm really curious with him of, what's the development as the season goes along. I know it's a tough loss, but the games are only going to get better from here on out for Auburn and more difficult. So I'm curious, is he going to be a guy that kind of steps up, makes 60, 70 tackles? I mean, he had 10 tackles yesterday and a couple for loss. So is he going to be somebody that makes 60, 70 tackles, couple of sacks, and really starts figuring it out as a senior rather than as a redshirt freshman or something like that? So I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious with him. Chandler Wooten, number 31, 6'3", 235. So nice size. I don't know. We'll see. I want to watch more, though. This was his first game of the year, so we'll see what happens there.
Going forward, do you want to throw a name out there, sticking with the defense side of the ball for Auburn? Roger McCreary, number 23 cornerback. I think he's their star corner, 6 foot 190. He came away with an interception in the pass breakup yesterday. Can be sticky in coverage, tough kid. Definitely watch out for him. Of course, it's the top DB. I think we all would say would be Smoke Monday over there for that secondary. But definitely keep your eyes on McCreary because he's a good one. He's a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens, obviously, with Auburn. Tough loss. Penn State, they're rolling 3-0, but James Franklin hasn't had that big moment yet where he's screwed up the game that he does every year. So we'll see what game that is. And Auburn, obviously, they've still got to play Bama and everything else. So to me, they're probably, maybe I'm wrong for saying it, but they're probably a 2-loss team at this point with their first loss of the year. So we'll see what happens. But Bama, they struggled a little bit yesterday against Florida as we talk about them. And I mean, I thought this game was easily going to be Alabama, 28-14 or 35-17 or something. Like, I thought they were going to win in convincing fashion. And Alabama, I thought yesterday struggled at times. The biggest bright spot was Bryce Young. I think he's been probably the brightest thing that they have on offense outside of Evan Neal and Emil Ekiyor, their guard, their right guard. But Bryce Young, like we were talking about before the show, just kind of has that, I don't want to say like that it factor, but he is just so calm, cool, and collected as that quarterback. He continues to play some of the best football that they have on the offensive side. What was your takeaways from this game in a 31-29 win for Alabama over Florida?
Like you said, Bryce Young's phenomenal, man. He is, and we talked about this before the show, reminds me a lot of Tua. Just watching him back there, he's mature, he's wise, he's smart with the football. And to me, I think he has a stronger arm than Tua. And of course, he's a better dual threat. He has better dual threat capabilities and athleticism than Tua has. So he gets that kind of that feather in his cap. The thing for me is, unlike most Alabama, previous offenses, you have Najee, Josh Jacobs. We've seen so many backs come out of there, right? So many Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, so many dominant rushing attacks. They don't have that this year. Brian Robinson Jr. I have a day 3 grade on him right now. I don't see him going before round 5 unless he picks it up and averages 120 yards a game from here on out. I just don't see it traits-wise. McClellan is solid, but he averaged less than 2 yards per carry yesterday. The offensive line is good. They have 2, possibly 3 potential first round picks. I forget the young man's name, but I don't think he's coming out until 2023. So, the offense is good. They have good weapons, explosive weapons. For me, Bama's just struggling to get the ground game going consistently and letting it not just be a sidekick to the passing game, but sometimes you want to have that run game be able to open up the pass game. And Florida's defensive line did a great job actually, resetting the line of scrimmage, setting the edges, playing, rallying to the football, not allowing a big, huge run. The longest run yesterday for Bama out of their running backs was 23 yards. Like, come on. Like, they did a good job. So for me, for Bama, it's going to be interesting to see how they manufacture, production out of the run game. Florida, I'll be honest with you. If Richardson plays, I think they win this game. Truly. And Emory Jones, 181 passing yards through an interception. He ran 19 times for 80 yards and all. That's fine. But you have to be able to attack a Nick Saban defense through the air as well, and he wasn't consistently able to do that. The running back Davis, 96 yards rushing, almost 100 on 10 carries. That he was explosive. So it's just that Florida's tough. They're going to remain tough too for the rest of the season. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to play great defense. The main thing is, when will the head coach say, you know what, Emory, thank you for your services. Appreciate you. But we're going to go with Richardson. Like, at some point you have to go that route, man. And it's frustrating to watch, and then no shot to Emory Jones. He played the best that he could, but it's frustrating to watch as an evaluator to watch a pass game like that.
Well, and I think it's also frustrating to see the game end the way that it ended. You know what I mean? Like, you have an opportunity to make something happen, and I get it. Like, you're going like 60 yards down the field. Like, it's going to be tough to make something. Yeah, like, and I get it. But like, you drop back. You have a trips bunch formation to the right, which was dumb, and they're dropping 8. They're rushing 3. They bring a delayed blitzer. The nose is spying on the quarterback, but Emory drops back, and then he steps up and he creates something, and then he just takes off and run, and it's like, you don't even there's not even a single.
Where are you going?
There's like not a thought in your mind of just setting up your feet and throwing it as far as you can. Like, give a shot. Maybe there's a bad bounce, somebody makes a catch or something. Yeah, I'm with you. As a quarterback, I don't really see it with him. I mean, can he make some throws? Sure. Can he run an offense with a lot of RPOs and zone reads? Absolutely. I mean, he's a mobile quarterback. He does what you want him to do. And Malik Davis is definitely key there because he did a great job. But I don't know, man. Like, Florida's going to have to do something in those big situations, because if that's what you're going to get in a big situation out of your quarterback, then that's not your guy. I mean, that's just not your guy. But defensively, props to their defense for making some plays. I mean, they had 7 pass deflections defensively. They had a couple of sacks in there. Jeremiah Moon really stepped up, I thought, the linebacker. Again, one of those senior linebackers that we could talk about at the Senior Bowl. He's got some intriguing traits that I don't know if he's really ever put it together, and maybe he's just a guy. I mean, and that's fine if he's just a guy. But Brenton Cox Jr., he had a sack. I mean, the guy's got a frame on him. I mean, he's jacked up for his frame.
Explosive.
He's explosive. He was really intriguing. On the Alabama side, defensively, Josh Jobe, I thought, again, I've had his name circled for a while, and we can finally talk about him a little bit. The cornerback, he had a key pass deflection, maybe one of the only times he was thrown at, but he made a play, and he's got some good length. He's very smooth within his back pedal. He's got fluid hips that I really like, and I think he's a good tackler overall. So he's not afraid to stick his head in there and make some tackles, which I always like with a corner and a defensive back. So Josh Jobe is somebody on the Alabama defensive side to really keep tabs on. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If that one kid plays, Florida's going to win that game, and they don't end up doing it. They don't pull it off, but Florida's going to be, I think, a good team. I don't think they're gonna fall on their face after this. I mean, Tennessee's next, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. The LSU game will be pretty big. The Georgia game will be pretty big as well. But I mean, I think that they could easily be a 10-2 team. If something goes bad, obviously they'll be like a 9-3 football team. But Florida impressed me yesterday. I'm going to throw it out there. I mean, they really impressed me. I thought that they were going to struggle quite a bit, and while they had some struggles, they played well. So, yeah, that's Florida. That's Alabama. That's that game. Alabama staying at number 1. I don't think that's going to change. But somebody that might not be staying number 1 is USC quarterback Kedon Slovis. We've got a quarterback controversy possibly on our hands, and this is DP's segment because he is not a Kedon Slovis guy. But now we've got Jackson Dart, who, I mean, what a name for a quarterback. The guy was throwing darts yesterday.
Yes.
And he looked pretty good. USC bounced back after firing Clayton. They come up big against Washington State. They were down 14-0. They came back and put up 42 on them. So the floor is yours, my man, on this quarterback controversy.
Yeah, I think we I think we have one and we should have one on our hands. Keaton Slovis, yes, he's the tenured guy, but it's crazy because Keaton Slovis was able to get his opportunity due to an injury to JT Daniels a couple years ago, right? So it's kind of crazy how life works in a way. Jackson Dart, 6'3", I believe he's like 215. He has mobility. He can run and make plays with his legs out of the pocket. Kind of physical runner as well. That's something that Keaton Slovis really didn't give you as well. It was a true dynamic threat or a true power threat out of the backfield when he needed to tuck and run. But for me, the offense just looked much more explosive with Dart back there at quarterback. He out of, so many quarterbacks there, he had the, pretty much the best debut, threw for the most yards in his debut as a USC quarterback, 391 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, but granted, his first action, right? But he was decisive with the ball. He was accurate with the football, driving it downfield. He threw it into some tight windows with defenders wrapped around his weapons. I loved everything I saw from him. And for me, I think the interim coach is Dante Williams or Coach Williams. He needs to look at this situation a little bit because, again, and Keaton Slovis, to me, he has a average skill set, right? Especially arm talent wise, but it was always the decision making that made it worse. Like he didn't make the right decisions or the best decisions. So it's like, okay, you can't have a solid, average to solid skill set and then be a shaky decision maker. Like you look at Mac Jones. For the most part, Mac Jones is a sound decision maker. He's intelligent. That's what everybody in the media praised him on, was being an intelligent guy. He just doesn't have the arm talent to fit it into these true tight windows consistently. So at least from the neck up, he makes the right decisions. I didn't see that with Keaton Slovis. Yeah, 2019 was a great year for him, but I always tell everybody, when you don't have expectations, you're able to get a lot of different things done. When you come in after having a great season or a productive season and teams are game planning for you, they know what you do well, know what you don't do well, that's when you kind of make you earn your money. You make your bread and your butter at that moment. And he hasn't been able to do that last year. I heard a lot of people, well, he had a shoulder injury. Okay, cool. I gave him a mulligan. Through 2 full games, he just wasn't impressive to me. That Jackson Dart came in and lit a fire under this offense from his mobility, his attitude. He's a very fiery competitor. You just see him celebrating with his guys, all of that. So I think that there should be a QB controversy. And if, of course, if Keaton Slovis is healthy. If he's healthy, it should be a discussion. If he's hurt, then you just roll with Jackson and see where he takes you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn on it. I didn't watch the game, so I mean, I saw clips and pieces of it. I didn't watch the game in full or anything like that, so I can't really say one way or the other of much about Jackson Dart. I saw a couple of throws of what he did, obviously, but I'm kind of torn for the fact that when Keaton Slovis got his first real true action back in 2019, it was against Stanford. He came out, he was 28 of 33, had almost 350 yards passing, had 3 touchdowns. And I think it was because Stanford wasn't prepared for this young kid. Same thing here, Washington State. I mean, it's not like Washington State's rolling with Mike Leach and he's getting prepared with 5 different quarterbacks running his air raid offense and then running a scout team with 17 different quarterbacks. It's just, I don't know. I'm torn on it. I think once teams kind of key in on Jackson Dart, if we know exactly the injury and where it's going, then I think it's going to make it a little bit more tough for a player like Jackson Dart. But at the same time, yeah, there's a lot that went right for him. And Slovis, again, has struggled. He hasn't looked necessarily like that guy from 2019, where I'll be honest, 2019, he was very impressive. It was like, man, this guy's intriguing. He might flirt with that QB1 label a little bit. And it just hasn't been there this year. So I am curious what Jackson Dart does, what he brings to the table in the long term for USC, because USC, they need something, right? Like USC's got some talent. And again, Dart comes out, plays a great game. They got, Oregon State next on their schedule. The big game I think is, or the big stretch, I guess I should say, is going to Colorado. Because again, I don't know how long Slovis is out. Maybe he's out for 3-4 weeks. Maybe he's out for 3-4 days. But you got to go to Colorado. Not always easy to play there. You got to play Utah. They had a tough loss yesterday against San Diego State, but Utah's always good. You got to go to Notre Dame. And I mean, obviously you'll have Arizona State. You've got to go there. You've got to end the season with BYU. You have UCLA, and UCLA looks like tough loss yesterday against Fresno State, but UCLA looks like something. So again, if he is going to be the guy, I'm just curious that can he put together enough down the stretch here for the season to really make it happen for USC. And maybe it's not even about winning or losing at this point. Maybe it's just about showing, hey, like you're kind of saying, he's the better quarterback right now, and there's a lot more to work with Dart than there is Slovis. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I don't think USC is going to go away from it. I think if Slovis if he's good, if he's ready to go, he's going to be their guy. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm all for controversy. Give me it. Let's see what happens here. But no, I mean, Dart was impressive. If Slovis is going pro this year, Dart's got some time, right? Like, you don't need to rush him into anything. It was great that he got this experience. He might get another start or two, but at the same time, like, I think the program probably wants what's best for Slovis getting into the next level, whatever that might be. Obviously, they probably want what's best for them, but I don't know how much pull, and I know it's an assistant head coach, and I know it's his team right now, but if there's an athletic director or something, like the board of directors or boosters or something, they might bring out the pitchforks and say, no, you got to play this guy. Like, this is our poster boy, our baby boy.
The politics
this is our guy. Exactly. And I don't know if I could be wrong. Maybe that's not the case at USC, but I know that's the case for some teams in the SEC. And we know that's the case for some teams across the country. So we'll obviously see what happens with the whole thing. But yeah, Jackson Dart impressed. Slovis has not been impressive for quite some time now. I mean, really in your last year into this year, he has struggled. Mm-hmm. So speaking of struggling, Oklahoma, Clemson, they're winning football games, but man, those offenses are struggling. And Clemson had a Georgia Tech. You're thinking, hey, they're going to make something happen, and they win a game 14-8. And that offense without Amari Rodgers, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, it's taken a while to get going. And I don't know if they're ever going to get going with Clemson. We'll start there because I'm not as worried about Oklahoma as I am Clemson. I mean, this offense, man, it's bad. It is bad.
Right. Yeah. It's tough right now. Watching them, again, watching the All-22 against Georgia. Georgia's defense was just they played with their hair on fire. They were just the more talented team, especially defensively, going against that offense, right? The thing that I remember, and I've never forgotten it, listening to Bucky Brooks years ago for NFL Network, he said, you want to build your wide receiver group like a basketball team, like a starting five. You want your big, your center, your power forward, you want your small forward, but you want your long ball guys, your scorers, your slashers, your shooting guard, your point guard. You want it to be well-rounded. Clemson's wide receiver core is not well-rounded at all right now. You see, and a lot of it, I'm going to be honest with you, is due to how they recruited for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, and I remember SEC DB telling me this, Trevor Lawrence is a big body thrower. He likes his big receivers to throw the go ball, the back shoulder, and things of that nature, where his strike window is much bigger rather than having a multiple of Amari, having a Renfro and Amari Rodgers, where you can have two route runners. And so the offense doesn't have that right now, in my opinion. And then the offensive line, it doesn't make it any better. I want to see, because we know the arm talent is special with DJ Uiagalelei. But the thing about it is he doesn't have the time to survey the defense, find the deep ball, and let it rip, because the offensive line is so porous right now. And they're kind of young. They lost Jackson Carman. They lost some guys to the NFL. I think their right guard, if I'm not mistaken, is a true freshman. So it's like, man, like that's tough to sit there and deal with. But it's just, he's having to dink and dunk, try to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Yesterday he did impress me with handling the blitz, because Georgia Tech did send pressure at him. He was able to move up in the pocket, be calm, deliver the ball to a guy that can catch and run, and were able to move the chains. But again, they can't run the football consistently either. What does that do? Set up the play action, set up the RPO action. They can't get any of that going right now. And
None.
not only that, but for me, like, I'm looking at their offensive coordinator, and I'm just like, what is going on with the play calling, some designs? Let's get some bunch sets going. Let's get some motions, some orbit. Will Shipley may be their the quickest and most explosive weapon on offense right now. Let's use him like Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. Let's get him out, line him up at X against some linebackers and safeties, run some slant and goes and different things like that. Let's really create havoc for the defense. Like, hey, you want to pressure us? You want to pressure our young quarterback? That's fine. We have an answer for that. We're going to replace the guys that you're sending, and we're going to send somebody in that area, and we're going to dump it off to him and let him run and catch or run after the catch. So for Clemson, like I say, I agree with you. I'm way more concerned about their offense than Oklahoma's for sure.
Yeah, it's like they're stuck in the way of, well, we've got this running back, and they're stuck like the playbook is stuck together with last year's talent and the years before with, again, Lawrence and ETN and all the big body receivers that they have, and even guys like Amari Rodgers. That's their gadget player, and they lose him and they don't even know how to replace him. And you bring up a great point. That's Will Shipley. You bring him, you put him in motion, you line him up in a bunch formation with him and Ross, right? Like you have them bunched up to the right side. Shipley runs underneath, or he runs a wheel route with his speed up the sidelines, and Ross runs a deep post or something like that and draws in that safety. And you can do multiple different things, and they're not doing it. They're just not doing it. And I get it. They don't have the offensive line that most teams do. I mean, they have some big bodies, but they're just inexperienced. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's frustrating to watch, though, when you see a quarterback in DJ who played last year against Notre Dame when Trevor Lawrence had COVID, and he made some big time throws. He made some big time plays. And it was like, man, this guy looked good. He's going to be somebody we talk about next year and moving forward. And honestly, I don't even want to talk about the guy because he's averaging 5 yards a throw, and he's struggling because of the offensive linemen in front of him are struggling. And outside of Ross and Shipley, I mean, this offense doesn't have much. I mean, like, there's just not much to the table. Like, Pace really isn't doing it. Allen isn't really doing it. Nada, or whatever his name is, he's looked okay at parts throughout the year, but not really. And to only put up 14 against Georgia Tech is concerning. And when you look at what's next, I mean, NC State, you got to go there. NC State can be hit or miss. If they're on their game, it's going to be a dogfight. Boston College, they played them at home. Boston College got a quarterback in Jerkovich. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there. Their defense might be suspect, but it feels like for the last couple of years, Boston College and Clemson has always been close. Always been close. It's always been a game. And that's with the Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and all that stuff. He's gone, obviously. So what happens now? And if this offense continues to struggle, that could be a loss. So, I mean, fortunately for Clemson, they do play in an ACC that, they play a Pittsburgh team that lost to Western Michigan yesterday, a Florida State team that's 0-3, a UConn team that might be the worst team in the country. So they play some bad teams. And UConn's not in the ACC, but they play some bad competition. They can obviously figure this out, but Georgia Tech isn't much to write home about either. So the fact that you only put up 14, I don't know. It's concerning. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for Clemson, who has been in the top 10 for the last 5, 6, 7 years and has made it interesting. So we'll see what happens. But moving over to Oklahoma, they struggled a little bit against Tulane to start the year. They played Nebraska yesterday, and I mean, it just wasn't clicking there. I mean, Spencer Rattler seemed a little bit off. He only had one passing touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown as well, just over 200 yards rushing. And Oklahoma, they win, but I'm not as concerned about this because they can get it going. There's talent there to get it going. And whatever the issue is, I mean, I haven't really dissected it to see, hey, what is the true issue here? But I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to figure it out. And I think yesterday was the first time the stat's going to escape me, but it's the first time they haven't scored 27 plus points. I want to say in like 15 or 16 games or something like that. So they've been able to put up points with Lincoln Riley as their head coach. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not too worried about it. What do you think the issue is with Oklahoma? Or do you have a thought?
Yeah, for me, watching them, everything like Spencer Rattler from the neck up, he's making just questionable decisions, throwing into windows with three players, and it's just like, bro, that's not what you need to be doing. That's not what I want to see you do, at least. So it's like that's an issue for me. I'm like I said, one of the main things is they're not pushing the ball downfield. You have some explosive weapons, right? Mario Williams, Mike Wood, the transfer from Arkansas. You have Marvin Mims. And for me, I want them to continue that balance with Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray. It was great yesterday. Both guys were productive. Both guys gave you different aspects in the run game, with Gray being more of the shiftier, elusive back, and Brooks being more of the power back, bringing both of those elements. That's good. That's going to open up the pass game as well. But for me, Lincoln it's like a lot of kind of quick hitters, see some screens, some smoke screens, quick hitches, quick outs. And it's like, okay, do you not trust the O-line to hold up for Rattler? Or are you not trusting Rattler's decision-making with the football? And that's my main concern. I love Rattler's talent. And I always talk about that. Talent is one thing in the prospect, but it's the decision-making, right? So for me, with Rattler, he was a consensus number one, QB1 coming into this season. And I'm looking at Matt Corral and Malik Willis as his two biggest threats right now. I know a lot of people, Carson Strong, he's talented, right? He's a little bit he's not a full statue, like he's not full running in cement, but he's running in quicksand. He's not athletic at all.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But then at the same time, he doesn't read defenses. It's just like he stares down one read and it's like, I'm going, he would be perfect for Bruce Arians to develop in his no risk it, no biscuit offense, because that's his philosophy mentally. So I'm not drafting him in a top 15 with him being with him not reading defense. I can't put myself in that realm. But I'm looking at Malik Willis, who's playing phenomenal right now. Matt Corral is probably the leading Heisman candidate right now, especially after his coach let him put up 7 touchdowns, 4 on the ground against Tulane yesterday. Like, yeah, let's load up these numbers, buddy. Let's get you out there and get these voters talking. But like Oklahoma, I think they're going to be fine, but they have to do better.
Yeah, no, it's just it's underwhelming for sure when you see the talent that's on both offenses for Oklahoma and Clemson, and this is some of the results that we're getting. Again, like I said, I'm not worried about Spencer Rattler too much. I think the makeup is there to really develop, obviously, into a true QB1. He's been on and off this year a little bit. He's made some nice throws, but then there's a lot of just stuff kind of between the ears that isn't really clicking now.
I'd like to see the Spencer Rattler that finished the season last year when he was on.
Yes.
When he was on and he was making those right decisions, the right reads, just like literally showcasing his full arsenal of talent and traits. And from the mental aspect, I want to see that Spencer Rattler for the rest of this season. Not because he started out last season, same way. Rough decision making, some inaccuracy, throwing into multiple defenders and things like that. Then he had to be benched for him to kind of, okay, this isn't high school. I need to get it together. He got benched, came back, and he played phenomenal down the stretch. I don't want you to have to get benched again, bro. Like, just come out, take your defense serious that you're playing against. So, okay, and for me, I want him to be a true student of the game as well. Make sure you're in the film room. You know what they do well, and also know your – as form play, that's one of the biggest things. Know your weaknesses so you can anticipate how they're gonna defend you. Because if you don't understand what you don't do well, you're gonna set yourself up for failure, because you're not gonna be able to decipher and anticipate. Okay, I don't throw my best going to my right. They're gonna flush me to my right. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, they're gonna blitz me off my left, send multiple pressure. I got the roll to my right, and that's not something we do well. Or whatever I struggle against nickel blitzes. They're gonna send some nickel pressure at me. So just know where your struggles are, locate them and correct them, but know them so you can anticipate how the defenses will defend you.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, like I said, I'm not too worried about Rattler just yet. But at the same time, it's been a little bit underwhelming where we're at. And I'm with you on Matt Corral. I mean, that's my guy. Been talking about him all summer, and you as well. And I'm just, I mean, he's a dude, and he's playing well. So
phenomenal.
We'll see what happens with him in that offense. I mean, there's just so many things to defend with that Ole Miss offense that Matt Corral executes it fantastically. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's a first-round QB by the time we get to April. That might be rich for some people, but
we're heading that way, bro. I think we're heading that way.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. But speaking about quarterbacks, speaking about passing and everything else, the floor is yours on Michigan and how they need to throw the ball more. That was something that you had mentioned before the show. You were talking about a guy that I'm a fan of, even though he wears maize and blue. That's Blake Corum, their running back. And while they're beating up on teams like Northern Illinois, putting up 60 points, and they've got some cakewalks to start the year, Michigan needs to throw the ball more. Jim Harbaugh is stuck in his 1985 offensive playbook, coming out in the eye, split back, and power eye, and offset eyes, and everything else to run the football, and not really spreading it out. But I want you to elaborate a little bit about Michigan and what you're seeing with the maize and blue.
Right now, for me, is the run game is great. Like, they are destroying teams with the run game. Blake Corum, I forget the other running back's name, but he's run the ball tough, physical, gritty. I love it. But for me, when you're playing, I'm looking at the numbers here. You played Western Michigan, Washington, and Northern Illinois. So their starting quarterback, Cade McNamara, has attempted 11, 15, and 11 passes. That's his stat line through 3 games. He has not thrown over 200 yards. Against Washington, he threw 15 passes, completed 7 for 46%, and he had a higher percentage than he had passing yards. He only threw for 44 yards that game. So he has 3 touchdowns in 3 games. Okay, like that's a little, And even against Northern Illinois, he had an 87-yarder, which bumped his numbers up to 191. My point is, against inferior competition per se, you basically whoop Western Michigan. I would have liked to see him at least with the ball 20, 25 times. Right. Against Northern Illinois, 11. Like, my thing is this. You're going to play teams down the stretch that's going to stop your run game. And when they force you to throw, Cade's he's not prepared for that. He hasn't seen it in game. He hasn't done it and completed these passes in game where you had to rely on his shoulder. Harbaugh, I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate the cupcake thing, but that's why in my opinion, that's why a lot of teams do the cupcake thing, because of the simple fact of the matter. That's what we can kind of iron out some things. I can get your confidence up and let you throw it 40 times against Mercer, and you dominate and get your confidence where it needs to be. You're seeing passing windows, the game's slowing down for you a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's all about reps. And I'm not talking about just snap reps. No, because if most of your snaps, you're just dropping back and handing it off, when you have to throw it 40 times because the teams are bringing those safeties in the box and this 9-man, maybe 10-man fronts, and they're playing zero coverage and saying, listen, you have to throw against our man-to-man defense with no safeties. Do you trust your quarterback to make those throws? And I don't trust Cade right now because I haven't seen him do it. So it's like, Harbaugh, like, I get it, man. I understand it. Blake is killing it. I get it. I love it. I love seeing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, to me, the best running back I've seen in Michigan, in my opinion, since Mike Hart back in the earlier days, a decade ago or so. So I'm fine with Blake Corum running the ball, but when you're playing these defenses, Jim, come on, brother. Like, let your quarterback throw. I'm about to pull up their schedule right now. You have Rutgers next week, then you have Wisconsin, then you have Nebraska. You get a bye. You have Northwestern. You have the Spartans, that's most likely a loss. You have Indiana. You have go to Penn State. So okay, in the next couple of weeks, you go to Wisconsin. Your next 3 games, you're home against Rutgers. You go to Wisconsin. You go to Nebraska. Then you come off the bye. You're home against Northwestern. You go to Michigan State. That's a loss. You host Indiana. You go back-to-back weeks on the road to Penn State in the whiteout. And you go to Maryland to play Tualia Tagovailoa and the Terps. Then you finish at home, basically, against a Buckeyes defense. Yeah, and a Buckeyes defense that's struggling right now, but it's also early, and they have a lot of young bucks on their defense that are getting valuable playing reps. So by week 13, these guys could be a little bit more, will be a little bit more seasoned. So again, when you're playing these inferior teams, this is like practice for you. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get some momentum, because when you go up against Northwestern and Sparty and Wisconsin, these are good defensive teams for the most part. And Penn State, Jaquan Brisker is going to be back there loving it if Cade has to throw the ball 30 times, because he's going to look for a couple picks. So, again, it's just that's my issue. Throw it against these bad teams so that you can be prepared to face the better ones.
Look, it's a discussion every single week in sports talk radio around Metro Detroit about Jim Harbaugh and his team here. And I can't explain it. Half the time he comes on radio shows and he can't explain it. The only thing I can think of is that he's got, I don't want to say like different passing concepts of different offenses, because he's not some offensive genius, right? Like he's just not. Like he's not Lane Kiffin. He's not one of those coaches that can dissect a defense right there and make a bunch of adjustments, nor can he put together a playbook that's got all these pre-shift motions and all these spread concepts and everything else. So with him, I think it's more so just maybe taking his time with Cade and not rushing him into situations. He wants to try to build his confidence with as many limited reps, but meaningful reps as possible, meaningful throws and things. Other than that, like, I can't explain it. Like, you're right. There's got to be a time where you come out and you throw the ball 25, 30 times and you give yourself an opportunity to truly see what your quarterback brings to the table. And he's not doing that. And that's why they lose, like you said, some of the games like Michigan State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, possibly Maryland. There's reasons why they lose those games, because they don't prepare early enough the right way to get ready for those big-time situations. Rutgers, should it be a win? Yes. But is Rutgers going to be a cakewalk? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong. They could win 42 to 10. They could easily do that. But at the same time, they might win 28 to 25 or 28-27. Like, it could be that close of a game, realistically. So the run game is there. Haskins is running well. Corum is running phenomenally. It's all there for them, but they've got to start putting McNamara in some situations to where he's got to make a play with his arm and not just rely on the run game. Because, like, when they play Wisconsin, that run game, I'm guessing, is going to be shut down at times. Could they have a big run here or there? Absolutely. But at the same time, you're not fooling Wisconsin. Like, Wisconsin is the key, like the king of running an I formation, king of running against a loaded box. So we'll see what happens. But again, I don't think many people in my area here were expecting great things from Michigan. Obviously, you have some slap fans that think they're going to go undefeated and win the whole thing. But realistically, yeah, they're a 3 or 4 loss team. And it's because of preparation like this to start the year against your cakewalk opponents, and you're not doing it the right way. So we'll see what happens with them. I don't know. Michigan State is, as long as Michigan State doesn't lose to them, I'm happy. So we'll see what happens. But we'll end it with this: the prospects that we like from the weekend. We can throw a name or two out there. We can throw out 50 names if we want. It doesn't really matter. I can start. You can start. Doesn't matter to me. But, yeah, prospects we like from week 3.
I love Drake Jackson over there in USC, defensive end. I know Of course, in the Pac-12, the big name is Kayvon Thibodeau, and he's phenomenal. He's, the best, arguably one of the best, defenders in this country. But Drake Jackson, the get off, the speed, the burst, the twitch, the power that he knows how to, when he converts speed to power, using his length, knowing how to win with his hands as well. He's fun. Watching him yesterday, he caused a strip sack, which was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown last night. Where he pretty much used a swipe rip combo, beat the left tackle quickly, and then the burst at the top of his rush to flatten and get to the quarterback before he got the ball out, laid a big hit on him. I love everything that I see from him as a pass rusher. And it's crazy because I don't hear his name enough, so I'm not sure. I know he's going first round. I truly believe that. I just don't know if he's going to go top 15, top 20, or if he's going to be after the 20 spot. But I think if he falls past the 20s, man, I think it's going to be a grave mistake on teams in front of him, in front of the team that drafts him, because he's a dude.
Well, I'll be happy if he falls into the 20s, because my Detroit Lions have 2 first-round picks this year, and they could very well land in their lap. So I'd be okay with that. If they decide to take a guy like that. But the guy that I'm just falling in love with more and more every single week is our guy, Tyler Goodson, out of Iowa. Another big game against Kent State, 3 touchdowns, had 150 yards rushing on 20 carries. I know they played Kent State again, but Iowa, a top 10 team in the nation, and I don't think that's going to really change. I mean, they're able to run the ball efficiently and as effective as anybody in the country. And, I mean, their first 2 games of the year against Indiana, at Iowa State, hasn't been necessarily easy to start. They get their first cakewalk, and they run right through them. But they got Colorado State coming up next. They've got Maryland, Penn State, Purdue, Wisconsin, Northwestern. So it's gonna be some tough games for them. But Tyler Goodson could be the difference maker for them. As I think he's their best piece on offense, and he might be the best running back outside of maybe Kenneth Walker in the Big Ten right now. Blake Corum, obviously, I got to give him some props, but those two have been phenomenal in the Big Ten and really nationally. So I love myself some Tyler Goodson, and just staying with the running backs. I gotta throw some love to our boy Kyren Williams. I mean, I think he's been phenomenal. Yesterday, he's had some tough treading early, but 91 yards on 12 carries yesterday and a score. He had 2 receptions for 47 yards and a score. I think Kyren Williams, again, has all the tools, all the making to be a true RB1, maybe the best back in this class. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of running backs that we really like and we talk about every week. But Kyren Williams had a big game yesterday against Notre Dame. It was a lot closer than I think people thought, and 27-13 win. But, Williams and Goodson for me, just rewatching games and watching stuff yesterday. Absolutely love those guys. So we'll see what happens there. You got anything else for me, my man, as we close up shop here on a week 3 recap of college football?
I want to throw one more prospect I really love, Calvin Austin III, the explosive, just rocket over there from Memphis, 5'9", 162. So far through 3 games, 21 receptions, 391 yards, 18.6 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns. Last week, in a shootout, 55-50 against Arkansas State, he caught 6 balls, 239 yards, averaged almost 40 yards per catch, with 3 touchdowns. Yesterday against Mississippi State, another phenomenal game. 10 targets, 9 catches, $105, almost 12 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns, and he returned a punt return as well. He had 2 punt returns, 107 yards, and a touchdown. So he had 3 touchdowns on the day to come up with a big win over SEC competition with Mississippi State. Listen, we're seeing that with the receiver position, just like the quarterbacks. It's changing. Yes, everyone, we like the guys who step off the bus and they look like thoroughbreds, right? The Treylon Burks of the world. But when you have in this league where so much space now, teams are being more creative with play calling. You get a guy who's, if I remember hearing correctly, I think Calvin Austin's a 4.3 guy in the 40. I think he has a track background as well. When you have that type of dynamic ability and he runs good routes, he has a nice release package at the line of scrimmage. You can move them wherever you want. The jet motion, ghost motion, orbit. You do whatever you want with him, and then he gives you the special teams, special teams ability as well. And that's another, just tip feather in his cap. Man, like this kid's dynamic, and it's somebody I'm watching for the rest of the season for sure.
Yeah, the punt return was amazing. The fact that he had the heads up mentality to make that play. Now, I know that the back judge there had thrown, his little blue thing down, and it was kind of like calling it dead, and he started waving his hands, but then there was no whistle, and he grabs it and goes. So I don't really know. I mean,
I didn't know what was going on.
From a college football level, there was some bad officiating yesterday.
Terrible.
From the youth football level yesterday, there was some bad officiating. I'm not going to get into my son's game yesterday, but man, some weird officials out there that are making some mistakes. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But no, I mean, yeah, Calvin Austin, we love this dude. We've been talking about him quite a bit. So he's been on fire to start the year, and I think it's going to carry over as we talk more about receivers throughout the rest of the season. So
absolutely.
That's all we have. I mean, that's a week 3 recap. Tons of prospects, tons of games that we got into, tons of great conversation. It's always a lot of fun. You guys, of course, can subscribe to the Cover One NFL Draft Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Spreaker, here on YouTube, really wherever you get your podcast. You can find us there, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. This was our video portion of the week. Tomorrow, if everything goes according to plan, we will do an audio portion of the show, kind of getting ready for next week a little bit. And then Saturday, we'll probably pick right back up with the video stuff and get into it and talk about everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys, of course, like I said, can find us on any streaming platform that you do about your business on YouTube or with Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, etc. So be sure to put us into your mix. And of course, you can find us on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft, at DP_NFL. Be sure to smash the follow buttons there. So for DP, it's been a lot of fun, my man. We will do this again soon, of course. And for everybody else, enjoy the Sunday games here for the NFL coming up in about an hour and a half. So until next time, this is Cover One, the NFL Draft Podcast.